The Constitutional Court. Now let's discuss Zuma's possible scenarios going forward with retired Constitutional Court Justice Johann Kriegler. Tell me, firstly, welcome. Thank you very much for giving us your time this afternoon, Judge Kriegler. What are we to make of the fact that the ex-president continues to behave very consistently in this particular way?
Well, we don't need this particular instance to realize that the ex-president is not behaving towards the country, towards the Constitution, towards the people, towards the courts in the manner in which one would expect him to. He was, after all, the prime protector of the Constitution and all of us as the head of state. It is a grave disappointment that he is behaving like this, but it's not the first, and I'm afraid it won't be the last of the disappointments that Mr. Zuma will inflict upon us.
Yeah, but, I mean, are we at a point where this leads to a constitutional crisis in this country?
Oh, no, Mr. Zuma can't create a constitutional crisis. He may well have wanted to at one stage. I think I'm not a political observer, but I do believe that he's a spent force. He no doubt has a large number of supporters still, but the overwhelming public opinion must surely be, let's get on with our country. Mr. Zuma owes a lot of money. He hasn't got the money. Where he's going to find the money, I don't know. I am not sure that he knows. He's owing these costs for the simple reason that he instituted court proceedings irresponsibly in order to protect himself, and the court ultimately said, your case is no good, and because you started it, you've got to pay the costs.
But if he fails to appear every time that he's asked, what does that mean? What's the consequence of that? Because it seems like repeated behavior. What's the consequence?
The consequence at this stage politically is that he is more and more discredited. Legally, it means that theoretically the people to whom he owes the money, the other litigants, the other parties, for instance, the Democratic Alliance that was a party in the case against him, can now go and ask for an order that his assets be sold up in order to pay for the debts that he owes. Whether that will happen, in fact, is an entirely different matter. Theoretically, the former president, like any other South African, like any other person in the country, is obliged to obey court orders. He's been told to pay the costs. He's been told by every court, and now ultimately by the Constitutional Court's dismissal of his application for leave to appeal, he's closed the door. He has no further avenues. He must pay. That's it. He must provide.
But like you say, whether it will happen is another matter. Is that because the courts will step on eggshells because he's the ex-president, because he has support, widespread support among South Africans? Is that why there's going to be eggshells everywhere?
I don't know that there are eggshells in this simple instance of costs. It's a purely mechanical, automatic exercise. We in our country, in common with a number of other countries, try to discourage people from starting frivolous cases or from frivolously defending cases by saying that if you do so and the court finds that you shouldn't have done so, it will order you to pay the other side's costs, or at least a substantial part of it. It's an incentive or a disincentive to frivolous litigation. That's what the court has done in this instance. It said, Mr. Zuma, you had no right to bring this case. You said the state must pay your costs. The state is not obliged to pay costs when you're trying to protect your own interests. You must now pay your own lawyers, and you must pay the lawyers on the other side. It's It's got nothing to do with politics. It's plain, straightforward, applying the rules of court and standard procedures.
And what about the talis case, which I'm sure you're also been following? Do you think that he's got other avenues to continue to push back? I mean, really, the ex-president has asked for his day in court, asked for justice. But every time this comes closer, there's yet another reason to push back. This time it's Billy Downer, for example. What tactics do you think we're going to see to delay things further from the ex-president and his counsel?
Well, I'm not an expert on Stalingrad procedures and tactics. They have surprised me time and again with the new ideas that they've come up with. This idea of attacking poor Billy Downer's integrity and impartiality is a lurk that I had not heard of before. I don't think it has much merit, but that's for the judge to decide. I won't say any more than that. But ways of putting off the evil hour, I won't put any limit to it. Their ingenuity is endless. I can't see it, but they've come up with good ones all the way. Good ones in the sense that they work, not that they sit, in the sense that they work in gaining more time. The fact that they're bad in law is a different matter.
Thank you very much for your comment. Retired Constitutional Court Justice Johann Kriegler.